Good morning. When I did the video a couple of days ago on Monday, I was going to be talking about catching consciousness, and because of technical issues that I was dealing with, I ended up going in a different direction that I had intended to go. So this morning I feel I'm going to talk to you about consciousness in the courts, because certainly the lawsuit that I became involved in July 2005 until last year was a significant factor in catching consciousness for me. It was really how I awakened to many things. And I'm putting this into the perspective of time and space and the world that we've been living in and understanding it for myself. I'm going to share with you how I came to some of my understandings. As I said, it was July 26th, 2005 that a lawsuit was filed against me challenging a trust that was created for Dr. Mary Horgan, and the challenge came from her banker who had attempted to take all of her belongings and con her out of everything that she had. And when she realized that she was being conned, she asked for help from me and others in the metaphysical community, and we helped her create a trust. And that trust was challenged by actually the banker's wife, who was behind the whole scam of trying to deprive Dr. Mary of her assets and whatnot. And I'm not going to go into all the details of the lawsuit itself, at least not at this time, perhaps not at any time. But I do want to share with you how I awakened personally to how our world is set up. And this is extremely important to understanding the illusion that we're in is extremely important to get the lessons that are here to learn. If you don't understand what world you're in, you'll never understand the lessons we came to learn. You won't even know what they are because you're in denial of the world as it exists. So anyway, the lawsuit for me was a tremendous awakening. Tremendous, absolutely amazing thing. Yes, the first two lawyers that I hired were doing what I guess most lawyers do. They were there to see how much money they could make out of this process, and they didn't care one bit about me. None of the lawyers in the case seemed to care at all about doing justice or about finding the truth. All they were interested in is dragging it on as long as possible to pad their bill. And when I realized that that was the game that was being played, and after my second lawyer gave me a bill that he knew that I did not have the money to pay back, I mean, he milked everything. They all milk everything that they can milk out of me and out of the estate that Dr. Mary left 50% of to me. But in any case, I decided that I was going to learn the law, which was an extremely educational process, an enlightening process. I mean, talk about awakening consciousness, and how did I catch it? My God, when I realized how the system is set up, how corrupt it is, how we have individually as human beings been deprived of our natural God-given rights as human beings by a government in the United States that is totally fraudulent. I mean, from the top to the bottom. The courts, the legal system, the financial system, the governmental system, it's a total fraud. I mean, it's a Ponzi scheme and a house of cards that, thank God, in our day today, it's coming down. But I began to learn things about free man status and becoming a free man in the land, and I began, every time that the court would send a notice or something like that, I would respond with a notarized affidavit. And I would establish point by point my understanding of the system. And as long as they didn't contest it, it remained valid, because I learned early on that an uncontested affidavit stands as truth. It's accepted as prima facie evidence, and it is the truth in the matter. And the big one was when I filed my UCC-1 in April of last year. I say the big one. I had learned about the UCC-1 fairly early on, and it looked far too complicated, much more than I wanted to get involved in. I mean, it was extremely complicated. And so I just sort of put it on a back burner and decided to just let go of it. But I reached a place where I thought I need to do the UCC-1. And the very next day, I got an email from someone with instructions on how to do it. And I did a lot more research than just those instructions. I used some of Tim Turner's material that I gleaned online and other sources as well. And I created my UCC-1, which is Uniform Commercial Code 1. It's a legal document, legal as in the terms of accepted by the Admiralty courts. And I reestablished by the legal system as well as by common law, I reestablished my natural rights, and I took possession of them. I owned my straw man, and I'm not going to go into detail on what that is. I put the video up a while back on the talk that I gave in May, on May the 30th in Cocoa last year, called Stand in Your Power. And that was May the 30th. And on May the 28th, I filed on the lawsuit, I filed papers with the court in the form of an affidavit again, always in the form of a notarized affidavit. I filed my final sovereign judgment in the matter. Now, I had been told by the lawyers that I was going to get in trouble if I continued to pursue that course. And they always speak as if they are the authority. And they expect you to bow down, expect us to bow down to their authority. But I filed my final sovereign judgment with the court, and then I gave my talk 2 days later on standing in your power. The next day was a holiday here in the United States. It was Memorial Day. The following day, June 1st, on a Tuesday, late in the afternoon, I received a letter from one of the lawyers that they had requested of the judge to basically remove the case from the docket. Take it off. I mean, it was scheduled for June 16th and 17th, date certain as they put it in their legal terminology. And this was requested. The lawyers had gotten together and asked the judge to remove the case from the docket, which the judge signed that order on that following Friday. I think it was June 4th. So the case had been removed and canceled from the docket, taken off. This was a tremendous victory for me and total elation that they were trying to take my home away from me. And I'm not going to go into all the details on that at this particular time in this particular video. But I had blocked them from being able to do what they wanted to do. I mean, all they were looking at is to enrich themselves at my expense and to totally subvert the trust that was created by Dr. Mary, who was my spiritual mom, by the way. I looked at her as my non-judgmental mom is what I used to call her, because my own family had, because of their fundamentalist religious beliefs, had sat in strong judgment of me for a long time, because I had a different God and a different Jesus than they did as they saw it, because I didn't dot my I's and cross my T's the same way that they did, and I used language that was a little bit different than the language that I had been raised on. In any case, Dr. Mary was my non-judgmental mom because she always accepted me as I was. And I wanted to honor her wishes, as we all did when we helped her create the trust. And so it was a banker and lawyers trying to subvert justice and claim something that did not belong to them. Does that sound familiar? All of this was part of my personal awakening. And when I actually went to the court to file a paper as a free man, not on the court case, or they accepted every document that I ever filed on the court case because it had a number. It was part of their system. It had a number on it, an assigned court number, a case number. But then when I went to file one as a free man, They told me they could not accept that document, and they sent me a letter in writing saying that they did not have the authority to accept that document. And I used that in my final sovereign judgment. I used that statement that they did not have the authority. And I said, since you don't have the authority, I have the authority as a personal sovereign, and I'm taking my authority and I'm issuing a judgment in this case based on the affidavits and the prima facie evidence that has been submitted to this court by me. It's all the evidence you need. Here's where it is. You didn't contest it. It's now over. The game is done. This was my conscious awakening in dealing with the courts. It was tremendously empowering when I realized that they do not have authority. A judge is not a judge. A judge is as a commercial administrator in financial matters, and courts are privately owned corporations that are existing for profit, the profit of the elite that milk off the top of everything, of every transaction that's ever conducted. They take money from at the top. That's why the top fraction of a percent of people own such a tremendous amount of the world's wealth, and they even own that which doesn't appear to be owned, because one of the things that I learned in dealing with the courts is when you have a house that's paid for, it's not your house. It still belongs to the state. When you have a car that's paid for, it's not your car. It belongs to the state. Everything belongs to the state, the way that the current system is set up. And even you, your own flesh and blood body, your own labor, your own creativity, all is property of the state. That's the way it's actually set up, folks. That's the way it's been set up. And it's not just here in the United States. That's been set up, the commercial thing has been set up around the world. It doesn't matter whether it's a first world country or a third world country. I don't know whatever happened to second world countries, but it's the same all over because it's the uniform commercial code all over the world. And that's the code that runs our financial system, and it runs our governments, it runs our legal system. And it's all a fraud. It's a house of cards. It's coming down in this ninth wave. This is the time that we consciously co-create a government and a world that serves the people and allows people to be free. This is what it's all about. This is what consciousness is all about. It's awakening to what's happening in our world, what our standing is in the world. If we're going to stand as spiritual beings, we are sovereign. If we're going to stand as slaves of the system, well, we are slaves of the system. We are straw men. A straw man is a legal fiction. And every one of you that is hearing me, no matter what country you're in, you're a straw man, because that's the commercial system, the way things have been set up. The state has taken control of you, and you didn't even know it, just as I didn't know it. Ignorance is not something to be shamed about. Ignorance simply is not knowing, and I was ignorant. And when I came into my realization and consciously stepped into my personal sovereignty, my personal power, I was able to shift my own energy to becoming loving, to have courage to tell the truth no matter what is in front of me, and to deal with whatever's in front of me. So this is the process, some of the process that I personally have gone through in reclaiming who I am, remembering and then reclaiming it. And everybody can do that. Everybody that wants to can do that for themselves. This is a beautiful thing that's happening in our world that happened to me. The lawsuit, instead of seeing it as a crime and myself as a victim of a crime, I saw it as an opportunity to learn who I am and to step into my own power. So that's a little piece of my story that some of you have asked about, and I appreciate each one of you that supports these videos and shares them with your friends. It's a wonderful thing to see this thing growing. So I'm going to leave you with that for today. I thank you very much for listening and for your time, and may God bless you and grant you more and more enlightenment and consciousness in your own life, that you may step into your personal power and be the person you were created to be. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.